The new Shield Pro. This is probably the most exciting one that I wanted to test for my upcoming Plex Ultimate client review video that I'm working on. But because that video is taking so long, because I'm testing so many different clients on so many different levels, in today's video, I am going to give you a quick review of some of the tests that I've ran on the Shield Pro. What's up YouTube, Jason here with Byte My Bits. Like I said, this is just a review on the Shield Pro. I'm going to try to keep it a little quick and short, just to kind of give you an idea as to why I was excited for the Shield Pro and also why I was kind of a little let down. I'll get to that here in a second. Before I get to the information dump, I do want to say that I'm running all of my tests off of that SimplyNUC, that 10th gen powered little miniature beast that SimplyNUC sent me. Primarily because, as sad as it is, even though it doesn't have as much capacity as my main server, because of the 10th gen and the integrated graphics, it's literally the best, fastest server I have. If you want to check out that video, check it out in the cards above. And that actually reminds me, now this is valid from now until 3/31 of 2021. SimplyNUC is actually partnering up with Plex. I'm not getting paid for this. They just sent me an email. I thought it was a good deal. They're partnering up with Plex to offer $200 off. So check out my links in the description. I'm gonna go to, that will take you to the SimplyNUC's website. You configure your media server and then you use the discount code PLEX200 at checkout and you can save yourself $200 US and Canada only. So again, that expires March 31st. I don't get paid for that. They just sent it to me and I'm like, hey, $200 off? Sweet. So moving on, the Shield Pro. People love this thing. They love it because it handles all the things, all the different codecs. They direct play stuff. As long as you have the bandwidth, the connection between your Shield Pro and your server and nothing else is forcing it to transcode, this thing should be able to handle it. So that's why people get excited. That's why I was excited. I've used the older version of the Shield Pro and it was great. This is basically the same like style, except it's a little smaller. Now on the back, you do get the standard Ethernet connection, HDMI port. You get 2 USB ports, so you could add on storage if you want. And then it has its own little type of charging thing, which I don't have any other chargers for, I don't think, but it may be Type-C, I don't think so. Doesn't matter. Anyways, power, Ethernet, USB, and HDMI. Now the actual specs on this don't matter too much. I'm just reviewing the Plex client today. So the first thing on my list of what I want to test in my main video is going to be browsing through a movie library, specifically a movie library that maybe has a decent amount of movies. So what I did for this test is I loaded just enough movies to give it something to scroll through. It's not a ton, but for the testing purposes, it was sufficient. And while I cannot give this a scoring number, which I will in my primary video, I can tell you that scrolling through was pretty fast as long as you are not holding down the scroll button. If all you do is click the button, probably as fast as you can, for the most part, the library, metadata, the poster, stuff like that can keep up to your scrolling, which that in itself is really impressive. I don't expect any media client to be able to hold down the button and go through, thousands of videos and be able to load all of the poster art and keep up with it in real time. That's just not feasible. I could be wrong. I haven't got to all of them yet. Either way, it is fast enough to scroll through. 3D printer's done. Either way, it is fast enough to scroll through your library. It's fast enough to keep up with your poster arts. So the browsing experience to find something you want to watch is enjoyable. Now the next thing is going to be starting, playing, and fast forwarding, rewinding, kind of scrolling through different video files. Of course, I started off with 4K because that is going to be a heavy focus on my upcoming video. It's because Plex finally got HDR tone mapping. Okay, so 4K, you start the play, less than a second, not too bad at all. 4K, fast forwarding, less than a second. Not too bad at all. Now, if you want to start transcoding 4K and changing that, it does take a little bit longer, but that might be more on the server itself than the client itself. So I cannot judge the Shield by how fast the server can transcode a 4K stream, especially with the new HDR update. But fast forwarding with 4K, right on, a little bit slow, but it is 4K and is to be expected. 1080p, however, is just pretty much instant. I mean, you can fast forward, you can rewind, you can go up to the thumbnails, you can scroll through the thumbnails, you can start playing it. I mean, everything plays freaking easy. It's great. Like, I love it. One thing I did note though is that when I'm changing the quality down to something, every once in a while, sometimes it would not automatically start playing the video file. I would actually have to press play. I was like waiting for it to change, and I'm like, WTF. Turns out I just had to press play, so I don't know why. That was kind of hit and miss. The next thing on my test, and one of the reasons why everyone is excited about the Shield Pro, is the codecs, the bit rates, the direct play capabilities of this beast of a Plex client. That's right, I called it a beast. To complete this round of test, I used the jellyfish test videos that range anywhere from 10 megabits per second at 1080p all the way up to 400 megabits per second 4K 10-bit. I mean, that's pretty impressive, right? I don't think you'd ever actually need a 400 megabit file, but to each their own. And I'm not gonna bore you with all the things it can handle without skipping a beat, because it can handle a lot. I'll go through the list though. We have 10 megabits, both in H.264 and 265, and 10-bit. All of these files kind of vary, just ranging all the way up to 100 megabits at 1080p, encoded in H.265. The Shield direct played them all without skipping a beat. It did it quickly. It was like seamless and smooth. It was just perfect. But then you get to 4K, then you get 200 megabit file, H.264 file, and it actually ends up transcoding it down to about 40 megabits per second. Keep in mind here that for some reason, the dashboard on Plex was doubling the bitrate. I don't know why, but that's not accurate. I checked. Either way, when I played that H.264 4K video file, it dropped it down to 40 megabits per second. It did use hardware accelerated transcoding, but that's not the point. The point is it did not direct play it, which, gotta be honest, a little surprising. However, you know, when you're getting in the 4K, H.264 is not as efficient as H.265. And 200 megabits per second, H.265 with 10-bit was able to direct play without a problem on the Shield Pro. However, when I got into the 300 and the 400 megabit H.265 10-bit video files, it transcoded it down to 40. So it seems like with the Shield Pro, 200 megabits per second with H.265 10-bit video files is about the highest you can go before you start running into direct play issues. And yes, this was running off of Ethernet. I checked both, actually. There was no difference, but still, it was running off of Ethernet. But what about that audio? Well, I actually have a lot of extensive testing to do on this, but I did run some rudimentary tests and kind of cover some of the basics. So for example, we have DTS HD MA 7.1 surround sound, DTS 5.1 surround sound, DTS HD HRA 7.1 surround sound, and PCM 7.1 surround sound test files on this test server. And the Shield was able to direct play everything I've thrown at it so far. In my comparison video, I want to dive a little bit more into this with better test files. So I'm definitely up for some recommendations for some thorough testing files. If you want me to test them, link them in the comments down below. But again, it's all about compatibility with the Shield Pro. That's why people like it. It direct plays stuff. It's just no fuss, knock stuff out, and not have any issues. I like that. It just relieve some stress on your server. And the last but not least of this review is going to be the remote. If you guys know me, you know the remote is everything to me. Seriously, everything to me. I used the Xbox One for so long because I loved the remote. Because if it's sitting somewhere, you tap it, it lights up. This one doesn't, but you know, it's easy to find. Very simple controls, start, play, forward, just very basic. And the Shield Pro remote pretty much hits on all of those cylinders for me, with the exception of not lighting up. You have all of the basic functions within Plex, up, down, left, and right, that allows you to skip forward, go back, bring up the transcoding menus. And because Plex uses the new unified, the UNO UI interface that's pretty much the same throughout all of the Plex clients, it's easy to navigate. You know what you're doing. It's just up, down, select, very basic. You can play it, you can pause it. You can even change the audio from this if you have it linked up with your radio or your TV or your surround sound. And the voice control, if you want to search, which is a huge thing for me when you're trying to type something out, it's just a pain in the butt. I tested it, it works good. I even tried to talk fast and it still kept up with me. So the voice search is awesome, it works, and it's reliable. That's all I can say. If I could have one wish, and maybe someone else out there knows that, I would like to change this Netflix button to Plex, right? I'm sure there's a way to do it. I haven't even looked into it, but that's just a wish I had, and I wish it lit up. You know, easier to find in the middle of a dark room while you're watching TV and you want to find your remote, you're scrambling around. It would just be awesome if this thing had a little bit of light on it. Well, guys, that's it for today. That is the small, quick, and hopefully somewhat informative review of the new Shield Pro. If you want to check this out, check out the links in the description down below for my Amazon affiliate links. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or complaints, leave those in the comments section as well. So thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and have yourself a good day.